savings air. I'll kill, I swear.
Hi, your bootness.
Hi, Your Highness. Good morning.
Let's celebrate episode 8.
Number 8.
Good morning. Cheers.
Good morning.
We like to drink in the morning if you can.
It's not really early morning, but it's still morning. Okay.
It might not be. How you doing tonight, Boo?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Your Highness?
I'm doing great. Spent the day with grandbabies and...
Oh, very nice.
Beautiful.
I saw some pictures. Yeah.
Of course. I sent 862 of them to you.
Thank you for listening to Michigan Murders and Music.
We're talking about Michigan murders in the back 40, in the woods, in the creeks, in the rivers.
All kinds of weird places.
All the weird places.
Weird cities that we've never heard of.
Leaving you with a happy ending.
Yep.
And on a good note.
On a good note.
I don't really know if I have any new listener hollers. I know a friend Tim was going to listen, but I never got any feedback, so maybe he hated it. I know where he lives. We can egg his house.
Oh, Tim?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, we should.
But anyways, if you guys would be as kind enough to subscribe, like, follow, listen. We're on iTunes, Spreaker, CastBox. We have a web page you can hear our episodes on. Anyways, blah, blah, blah.
If you're listening, you already know how to find us, so that's cool.
Blah, blah, blah.
We do have an explicit content warning. Apparently, Her Highness says naughty words.
Naughty?
Yeah, like the 4-letter words.
Naughty.
The ones that you get your mouth washed out with soap for using. You've had yours washed out, haven't you?
I don't think so.
Well, I have.
I was the youngest and a spoiled, rotten little brat.
Oh, man.
Do not allow your children's earballs to listen to our podcast. If you find them cussing like a sailor, it's not Your Highness's fault. It's yours for letting them listen to me.
Oh.
I mean...
I don't think those kids are going to be doing that.
Things. Murder,
kids are really good
swearing.
these days. It's kind of surprising.
Kids are much better than we were back in the day.
Yeah.
We're going to northern Michigan again, and we're going to choose to go back in the day.
1830, yep.
What happens in 1830, Mr. Boot?
An individual, a dude, named Jacob Crouch.
A dude.
He moves from northern New York to Michigan in 1830. He wisely uses his money to buy property that was known to produce good wheat.
Wheat, not weed. And time out. He moved in 1830. Did you know that Michigan wasn't a state or even a part of the Union until after that? Michigan was part of the larger Northwest Territory until 1800, when Western Michigan, where we happen to live, became part of the Indiana Territory. Michigan's territory was actually formed in 1805. Okay, so I guess it was formed by the time this dude moved here, with the exception of some of the northern Canadian border, which was not agreed upon until after the War of 1812. So the Crouches moved here basically right after Michigan became a territory.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. Little history for you there. The more you know. Ding.
Yep. So Crouch eventually turns his field into a field of wheat. He eventually turns his field of wheat into a full-blown farm.
He was a hard-working man. He bought cattle. He did all the things. He probably lumbered some stuff off of his property because it was full of trees back then.
Yep.
And he actually became a millionaire in the early 1800s.
Apparently he was a bit of a miser.
What the fuck is a miser?
Mine. Keep it to myself.
He wasn't known to be the friendliest of a person, which, a lot of millionaires aren't. They tend to be narcissistic pricks.
Typically.
He didn't believe in using the banks because he didn't trust the government. Don't blame him there. He didn't like having his photo taken. Why? Which you could tell. Remember the photo I showed you? It looks like somebody photoshopped his eyes. They are so creepy.
Yeah.
I understand you had to sit very still for a photo back then, but those eyes freaked
he just looks creepy.
Me out.
Okay.
He uses his millions to buy some property in Texas, also a cattle farm, right?
In Texas was a sheep farm.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, my bad.
Well, apparently he would vacation there and have fun with his sheep.
So, Jacob and his wife Anna had 5 children. They had Dayton, Braden, Susan, Eunice, and Judd. Unfortunately, Anna, Jacob's wife, dies 6 days after giving birth to their son, Judd. Absolutely sad. So, basically left Jacob with 5 children to raise. Judd was actually somewhat, back in the day, they would say he was deformed. He had a slight hunchback and he had a club foot.
Yeah.
But he was raised by his sister Susan and her husband Daniel Holcomb on their nearby farm. He actually thought that Susan and Daniel were his real parents until he was 10 years old.
They might as well have been, you know.
Yeah, but like they gave no indication, which kind of leads into what happens with Judd later on. It was thought that going to help support Judd, but it turns out he doesn't really.
He was a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
He had millions, but he was like, no, I'm not going to help.
And he didn't even talk to Jacob much. Like, he was known as Jacob's grandpa, supposedly, and he didn't even talk to the kid that much. After fighting in the Civil War, Jacob's 2 sons, Dayton and Braden, decided to move to Texas to raise sheep against their father's will, which is, I don't know, do they go on his farm to raise sheep? I don't even know.
That's not really clear.
It isn't clear.
But regardless, you know, apparently Crouch was a little jealous that his sons were going to be desecrating his sheep.
Why do you have to keep bringing up the desecration of sheep?
That's what they do.
So wrong. In 1882, Dayton dies a mysterious death in Texas, in the Lone Star State. Eunice, who was reportedly Jacob's favorite child, was a graduate of St. Mary's College at Notre Dame, and she married a local farmer named Henry White. Weird side note, Henry White's brother, George J. White, was a prominent Jackson physician who sold patent medicines through one of the city's largest pharmacies. So, married for just 2 years, the Whites were living with Jacob so Eunice could care for her aging father.
Yep.
Also living in the house was George Bowles, a 16-year-old black farmhand, and Julia Reese, a domestic servant, living in the unpretentious, if not shabby, Crouch farmhouse at the time of the murders.
Yeah, it sounds like their farmhouse was kind of run down, dirty.
It was kind of small.
They had millions of dollars, but geez.
Yeah. So it ended up being rumored that Jacob Crouch was going to leave his money to his favorite daughter's kid, Eunice.
Eunice's baby.
And, you know, that goes around town. He owns a lot of land, 1,000 acres of land. He has a valuable herd of cattle, plus property and livestock in Texas.
He has livestock in Texas, and he was a millionaire at the time of his murder.
Yeah. People said he was ornery, tight-fisted, untrusting of banks and lawyers. We already said all that. The day before his death, someone had come and asked to borrow money from him.
Oh, and he said, hell no. Get the hell off my porch.
Fuck you, you're not getting my money. Go make your own money like I did. I came here with $400 back in 1802.
That's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. So living in the home at this time is Eunice, who's 8 months pregnant. Her husband, we've got old man Jacob, we've got the 2 farm workers, farm hands, and then this other guy by the last name of Moses was staying there because he had just sold some cattle and was coming to pay John. And because it was a long trip, he was going to spend the night.
Yeah, Moses was from Texas.
Yep.
So
he actually was from Pennsylvania, but he was coming from Texas. So he was traveling from Texas, stopped to Michigan, paid John the money, then he was going to go to Pennsylvania back home.
The wheeler and dealer.
Well, yeah. You got to do what you got to do. So at this point, John's got 5 kids. His wife Anna's already dead. Living with John is his daughter Eunice. She's 8 months pregnant. Her husband Henry lives there. George, the farmhand, lives there. Julia also lives there. And then Moses, the guy from Pennsylvania, is staying there. It's the night of the murders. Every single news story I read or thing I listened to was like, it was a dark and stormy night.
Apparently it really was.
Which is kind of weird because it was November 22nd.
We've had thunderstorms in November.
1880. We did this year.
Yeah, and shoot, we just had one a couple days ago, and right now it's March.
That's a little more expected than November.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's November 22nd. The winds were outrageous, and there was a rare thunderstorm that raged outside.
Mm-hmm.
George, the 16-year-old farmhand, was awakened by thunder and thought he saw a man standing outside with a lantern. Oh, that just creeps me out.
I
can envision. Can't you just envision
looking out
slouched person with an old black
You're looking out the single pane window and rain dripping off it.
It's every horror movie. Yee.
Oh.
Yeah. He hears doors slamming and cries, and he decides to hide in his bedroom all night.
Under the blanket,
Smart
I'm
move.
sure.
Not going to blame him. I'd go under the bed.
Yep. Good move, George.
He comes downstairs the next morning and doesn't run into the whole family, but he sees Crouch on the cot, and he's definitely laying in a position that's not normal. And the kid's young, so he just busts ass over to the neighbor's house.
Yeah, and the neighbors came over and discovered the bodies.
Yeah, they're the ones that actually had to see it all.
Mm-hmm.
Before Sheriff Eugene Winnie gets there, literally around 100 people showed up at the scene. I don't even know how that happens.
I don't know. Word gets around pretty quick in a small town.
It just proves that murder freaks have been around forever.
Yep.
Everybody wants to see what's happening.
We got to talk about this at the barber shop.
Exactly. Jacob Crouch had been shot in the head. Moses Polly, the cattleman, was shot in the head and the chest. Henry had a bullet hole in his neck and another in the abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
Eunice, mind you, who was 8 months pregnant, took 2 shots to the right arm, 1 shot in the neck and another in the head. Plus, she had defensive wounds. So it did appear that she was the last one shot.
Makes me wonder what kind of gun, rifle, pistol, whatever, was used, because that's a lot of bullets. Somebody had to stop and reload at some point.
I read a lot of things and no mention of a gun was found. And we'll figure that out because we'll figure that out. I'm not going to say why.
Cool.
She was found with defensive wounds and her eyes were wide open and she had bitten through her tongue.
Ow!
Which means she had probably fought a little bit.
Probably got an undercut to the jaw while her tongue was sticking out.
Oh, Jesus. So it kind of seems to me like, I mean, when we listen to murders, it's a hate crime towards Eunice in a way. Everybody else was kind of executed, and it was like she was overkill just a little bit.
Yeah.
There was no sign of struggle for the other people, so they thought chloroform might have been used. Some people claimed the smell of chloroform was present. We won't know. It's from 1800.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing was the house was rampaged, like somebody went through it. But
the money was still in the home and the box containing important papers was gone. So apparently that was more important to whoever did this than money.
Which leads you to believe it's probably not a stranger, right? If they're
most
taking
likely.
his box of deeds and his will, and it would be like our little safe box, like somebody steals that because it's got all the important shit in it.
Everything else is still here?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Everything else, Jesus.
Maybe it's the early days of identity theft.
Oh, yeah. The sheriff did believe that one person committed these murders, as the empty cartridges on the floor were all the same. Wait, I did read something about guns, but that's all I read about it.
There's no indication whether it was a rifle or a pistol or cartridges. Yeah, it still
that makes you feel like
thinking shotgun, but
I don't know. It's the 1800s. I don't even know. I'm thinking they
muzzle loaders.
Had muzzle loaders.
I know.
You can't help but think that. Isn't that ridiculous? When the police get there and everything, the domestic servant Julia was in the kitchen, just completely unaware of what had happened. And when the neighbors overtook the house, it basically scared the shit out of her. I think she got up from her little sleeping quarters, which was probably right off the kitchen, under the stairs, and, like Harry Potter. And she probably got up and walked into the kitchen and started her morning duties, like she does every day.
Poor
Started
girl.
peeling the potatoes and shit. Due to the fact that Julia and George, the young servant, were the only survivors of the murder, of the massacre of these people, they were arrested. Due to lack of evidence, they were later released.
Mm-hmm.
Rumors flew around about the deaths, of course. They always and forever will. They still do to this day about this murder and
A few
any
rumors
murder.
seemed relevant.
Which ones, Boot?
Some said Jacob was planning to leave his entire estate and fortune to Eunice's unborn child and cut Judd and the Holcombs out of his will.
Remember, Judd's the young baby he gave away, basically.
Yeah.
Others said Byron had hired a band of Texas cowboys to kill his father to resolve a family dispute over the inheritance. Another possibility.
You know,
The sheriff ended up boarding up the entire home, and a bunch of people had gathered there for some reason on Thanksgiving Day, again, being murderino freaks.
looking for turkey or
Whatever,
some stuffing or
looking
something,
for a keepsake of a murder scene. People do it. It happens. Daniel, he's the father of Judd. Well, not the father, but the father who's been raising Judd, takes up residence in Jacob's house after everybody's dead in there and the house has been boarded up. And it's Thanksgiving Day. Why aren't you back home? It's kind of weird that he just takes up residence in this house, especially after murders.
I don't know what's going
This is the
on.
last place
They
I'd
have their
want
own place to
sleep.
live. So Daniel and Judd are arrested, and a pre-trial begins.
And this is why Daniel and Judd were arrested, because they actually found tracks that, this just sounds so horrible to say, but it's the 1800s. They found tracks that look like club feet. Daniel was living in the goddamn farmhouse, so it's kind of
Which
like...
farmhouse?
It's the goddamn farmhouse.
Oh, that one, yeah.
The one that people were just shot in. So the only evidence they basically had was footprints of a clubbed foot person. The little boy saying he saw the scary guy outside with a lantern, like the
So creepy.
headless horseman or something standing out there. And then we have Daniel living in the house, boarded up while media is out there.
So apparently there's more deaths discovered.
Yeah, pre-trial starts, right? In true 1800s fashion, we learn it's just not over here. Strychnine doesn't get brought into this one, I don't think, although it is possible.
They mention rat poisoning.
They do.
But it's probably strychnine.
Okay, Susan is Daniel's wife, Jacob's daughter. Susan's the one that raised baby Judd, her little brother. She was found dead in her bed on January 2nd, 1884.
Yes.
What kind of Mary McMurphy night thing happened to poor Susan?
Well, apparently she was force-fed rat poison.
We know what a horrible, goddamn awful death that is, thanks to
It has to be strychnine, yeah.
the Mary Murphy McKnight story.
Yeah.
Ugh. Some people said she killed herself because she didn't want to testify against her husband.
Yeah, I doubt that, but, you know, people are going to say anything they want, depending on
I don't
whose
know.
side
It
they
depends.
are.
I wouldn't want to testify against you. I mean...
No, you'd have to, though.
Well, you gotta.
Yeah.
You do drive that white van.
Hey, now.
Hey, I'm just saying.
You know what? I've got candy out there. Do you want...
What kind is it? Did you know they have Purple Rain jelly beans? Purple
That's what
Rain.
I have out there.
Oh,
How did you know about
I
it?
want to get in your van right now. 2 days after Susan is found dead, Boot,
Yes.
James Foy is found dead.
Oh.
He's the Holcombs farmhand. He was found shot in the head, in the noggin.
Who's knocking out all these people? Knocking them off?
Oh, somebody who does not want Judd and Daniel to go
And how are these
to
bullets
jail.
being fired and nobody
I don't know.
hears it?
It's the 1800s.
Nobody
It's
questions
not
it.
like it's a ton of people around.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But Foy got a little open when he had a couple drinks at the local saloon.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He talked too freely about the Crouch murders, and he even shot a Union City man who claimed he was connected to the case.
Oh.
The death was ruled suicide, even though the trajectory of the bullet wasn't suicidal. Plus, this is about James Foy, yeah. The farmhand of Daniel and Susan. They said he committed suicide, but there was no gun residue on his hands.
I don't think they really tried very hard to turn this into a murder or anything. They wanted this guy out of the way.
Yeah.
I think it was an inside job,
I think
involving
so too.
Authorities.
So before trial, witnesses conveniently disappeared.
So amateur detective Galen Brown,
a former policeman from Battle Creek,
was shot in the chest while walking from the Crouch home to Horton. So
Holy shit.
Yeah, they hospitalized him. He got better, but he still gave his
testimony in the hospital.
Yeah.
But
when he went to do it in court, he couldn't do it because somebody stole all his clothes.
Fuck.
I know.
Why did somebody like his lawyer go, hey,
here's some underwear,
here's some
and
pants.
some pants. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can't testify today because
somebody
stole my clothes. That would so not go over today.
So with all this crap going on, witnesses refused or were too scared to testify.
Yeah.
They all thought they'd get shot next.
Well, of course. There was 145, not witnesses, but 145 people were called, not to testify necessarily, but to talk about what they called upon 145 people to see if they knew anything.
What people knew, yeah.
Right. Daniel's trial started on November 8th, 1884.
Mm-hmm.
All the evidence.
Where are you from?
I just turned Southern all of a sudden. Is this Southern vodka in here?
Yes, it is. That would explain it.
God damn right.
Mm-hmm.
All of the evidence was circumstantial.
Yep.
None of the people could positively say who fired the shots that killed Jacob, the Whites, and Polly.
So Daniel was found not guilty.
Exactly.
It took about an hour for them to come to that conclusion.
There was no evidence. What are you going to do? Judd Crouch was never brought to trial, and no one was ever arrested or charged in the case again.
Yeah. Daniel married a Crouch cousin.
It moves to Wisconsin.
Yep.
In November of 1900, he's telling friends that he's having this nightmare, and he would start falling into the Wisconsin River and drowned. And then on November 15, almost exactly 7 years from the date of the Michigan murders, Daniel went to the Wisconsin River and was never seen again. Well, for a year. For a year. Exactly 1 year later, he turns up at his daughter's front door in Chicago, claiming he has no idea where he's been or what has happened in that past year. So it's just kind of a weird ending to the story.
Yeah. It's weird.
I don't know. I just thought it was weird. So to this day, the Crouch family murders have never been solved. In my opinion, I think Daniel and Judd did it. Judd found out that Jacob was his real dad, and he was this millionaire, and he barely even talked to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my opinion.
And to just disappear for a year and come back and pretend like you have no idea where you were.
I don't know what happened.
Fishy.
It's fishy. I don't know what happened. I don't remember.
Nothing. That's one heck of a bender.
There's some weird things that happen around this trial and case that no one can help but point out because they are simply just too coincidental.
Right.
Someone wanted to reopen the case years later. Every single file was gone.
Which leads me to believe again that someone on the inside was either paid off or involved in this.
Absolutely.
And they're just covering their tracks. Their heinies.
After the murder, Jackson County Sheriff Eugene D. Winey called...
Covering his heinie.
He called in an Ann Arbor photographer to photograph Eunice White's eyes. Remember, they found her with her eyes wide open.
Oh, and this is kind of
this is early.
Hey, how do you describe it?
It's early evidence forensic files stuff.
Yeah.
Because what he does is he calls in this Ann Arbor photographer, and they take a photograph of Eunice White's eyes to see if the image of her killer was still reflected in them. He tried, but said too much time had passed for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a thing. Like, they actually were able to, in some cases,
I don't know. That's
see what those people saw.
We'll have to look into that and see if it's real, but it sounds like hocus pocus.
Even for the early 1900s and 1800s, thousands of curious seekers visited the Crouch farm. They hopped on the Michigan Central Railroad train, and
they would stop the train so people could get off and check the stuff out.
To accommodate those who wanted to see the scene of the crime, people like us. Jackson County offered a $10,000 reward, and a relative another $2,000 for information leading to the capture of the killers.
That's a lot of money.
It is. For even now, that's a lot of money. Back then, that was buku bucks.
Jeez.
Guess what agency they hired to try to help?
That's right, the Pinkertons.
The Pinkertons! Everybody
Very
knows
famous.
about the Pinkertons. Dozens of amateur detectives descended on Jackson after news spread of the murders. Daniel Holcomb's brother Henry, who donned a disguise so he could hang out in the seedier parts of Jackson to get information, was one of them.
Which is weird to me because Jackson's still kind of a small town.
It is. So what kind of disguise is he going to wear?
And what kind of seedy area did they have?
Just a
row of 4 houses?
I don't know. That's awesome.
Right.
Joseph Allen. I just can't envision his costume, his disguisery.
Right.
Joseph Allen, a former Jackson machinist, was arrested in Hamilton, Ontario, and charged with the murders on the testimony of Henry Holcomb. Allen had mortgages, deeds, land patents, and a letter that belonged to Jacob Crouch. However, charges were dismissed May 6, 1884, when Allen said the papers had been given to him by Henry.
Cool.
Again, pointing out...
Inside job?
Yeah, family job.
Yep.
Mrs. Thomas Murphy of Jackson, one of the 145 people that they questioned in the murder and trial of Daniel Holcomb, was killed by her insane axe-wielding husband during the trial.
What is wrong with people?
Isn't that fucked up? That's a whole nother podcast I need to look
really
into. Mrs. Thomas Murphy. We gotta look into her. The next one's you, Boot.
Okay, in 1886, 3 bloody shirts were found buried in a stump. In a stump, I'm not sure how that works, if maybe it's under a stump, but the stump of a tree on the Holcomb property. It was never proven that they belonged to the killers.
Oh, again, it's on Daniel and Judd's property.
Yeah, and they could at least have done blood typing, obviously DNA.
They don't have blood typing back then.
Oh,
you're
right.
Weird.
Blood.
Yeah, just blood.
Mm-hmm. Judd Crouch moved to Indiana, but returned to Jackson quietly in the early 1900s. We're in the 1900s now. Yay!
How do you move back there quietly? It's a small-ass town.
I don't know, but he made a living hauling scrap and doing landscaping. He died in 1946, and his wife, Viola, are buried in Jackson's Woodland Cemetery.
My mannequin's head name was Viola in hairstyling school. Jacob Crouch's farm, estimated to be worth $50,000, went to Judd, who later lost it to the bank. The original house burned in 1947 in a suspected arson fire.
I wonder if they got insurance money for that. Or somebody.
That's a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's over 136 years have gone by. Didn't do the actual math because I don't like math. No answers to these murders. I think Daniel and Judd did it. It's obvious they did it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, Boo?
I think they were involved. Whether they did it, I don't know. But I think it's very strange that records disappeared.
And the bloody clothes were on their property.
Yeah.
And that Daniel moved into a boarded-up house of his father-in-law on Thanksgiving Day. Information was found from MLive article by Leanne Smith, published in 2010. Kathleen Tedson's book, actually she has a few of them, Haunted Travels of Michigan, Book 2, and a video of Kathleen discussing the murders in her book on YouTube helped us out a lot.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks, Kathleen. You know, Boo, people say that the Crouch Family Cemetery plot is haunted.
Well, it's got to be haunted. After
okay,
all
but this is the weird thing. Eunice, the favorite daughter of Jacob, was actually buried in a different cemetery. So I'm assuming she was buried with her husband.
Okay.
But people to this day, on November 21st, they gather at the cemetery and they swear they see the glowing light of Eunice and her father John.
They see them together
on that night.
Oh.
Yep. In the cemetery where Jacob
a different
is.
Cemetery.
Yeah, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. We saw a video of this guy that was talking about, I mean, it has a little fence around. It's not as cool as it sounds, like one of those old school fences, but it has a little fence around their plot. This guy in the video had taken his flashlight and he had jumped over into the plot.
Oh, yeah.
You remember this guy? Yeah. He goes, I was in there with my flashlight and I felt a tap, tap, tap on the bottom of my right foot. And he goes,
freaked out, ran.
He dropped his flashlight, bolted over the little fence, and said, I never step foot in that cemetery again. Fucking
I don't blame him.
Hilarious.
That's crazy.
I just wanted to say, I found this quote this week. I thought it was kind of cool.
Let's hear it.
The dead cannot cry out for justice. It is a duty of the living to do so for them. Lois McMaster Behold. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
There we have it. Another early 1800s story. Next week, we're going to bring it up a little more modern and bring it back to current times.
Yes.
But the historical part is kind of fun.
It is fun.
Because I envision it all like in black and white and shit.
In Jackson, if you've ever been there, there's a gigantic prison there. It's huge.
Didn't Johnny Cash write a song about it?
I don't think that's about the prison.
That's the end of the story, Boo. We're leaving the 1900s. We're going to get over the horrible Crouch family murders because they happened so long ago. And we're going to leave you with a happy ending.
Yes. And
who's
on
our
a
happy
good note.
ending?
Tonight we have a band from Grand Rapids, Michigan called Knives Are Quiet. We have Michael Ray Glover.
That's kind of a murder-sounding name. Knives Are Quiet.
Knives Are Quiet. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Jeremy Gish and Kevin Kiefer. Who's ever heard of Kevin Kiefer?
I don't know. That guy's one of the weird ones. So, Knives Are Quiet from Grand Rapids, huh?
Yeah.
How long have they been around?
Well, they've been around for right around 10 years. They play at various venues around Grand Rapids and surrounding cities.
What kind of music is it?
Well, they are a self-proclaimed fat swinger band.
Fat.
I'm not really sure what that means.
Not fat swing band. Fat swinger
band.
So if you're swingers...
They're an instrumental rock band that is thoroughly enjoyable to watch. They're really a fantastic band. I've seen them a few times, more than a few times.
Jesus Christ, we've seen them a lot.
Yeah, you can find them on Bandcamp and Facebook.
And if you want to book them...
You can find them at knivesarequiet69@gmail.com. That's KNIVESAREQUIET 69@gmail.com. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Here
Knives
we
Are
go.
Quiet. Again, a good bunch of dudes. I don't know if we'll ever have people that aren't good on here. There might be one or two in the band.
Well, if they're not good, you know,
a corn cob up their butt, but it's good.
But yeah, they're good guys.
I don't know. We'll feature them anyways because I like music.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to leave you guys with Knives Are Quiet. Thank you for listening to Michigan Murders and Music. We've had a great week. Next week, we'll bring you to the 1980s. Knives Are Quiet. Peace out. Have a good night, Boot.
Good night, Your Highness.
Cheers.
Cheers.